take over. Okay.
Okay. So welcome to the second session. And it's great to have Jeff with us. And yeah, for me, it's not less than asking how can we proceed in doing this unity and diversity to fulfill on the purpose. Midwifing a system of influence that nurtures, celebrates, and energizes work that matters and enlivens. And we created that after we read the Emergence article by Meg Wheatley, where she said, change only happens when first some people have an idea, then they have loose networks with others that might think the same. And those come together so they network with each other to have communities of practice. And as long as they stay in silos, as you mentioned before, Heidi, when everybody does great things but separate, it doesn't change much, just in their region a little bit. But when they come together and have that image of many tea candles, they all spread out, and you just collect them and bring them closer and closer and closer together, and till the heat becomes that big that it all becomes one flame. So, and after that happens, when the flame comes out, then there's something happening that we don't know yet because it has not happened yet. But after that, it belongs to the whole system, to everybody in the arena. So, yeah, I don't want less than the shift from the flat Earth to the round one. You know, like.
The paradigm shift.
How can we serve that? How can we serve this system of influence? Or we can come up with something else. That was her words. And this whole process from the interviews, starting with the interviews, and the process in Hungary, and further. This is what we want. And destiny means, what do we do? How do we do it? How do we structure it? What is it? So that's my question. And I'm happy that you're here to talk about that.
Well, it's a great question. I'm not sure I have an answer yet.
We ponder on that question.
I'm stepping into the unknown. I'm appreciating stepping into the unknown, seeing what shows up, but I'm not ready to speak yet. A note. So I'll stop trying to fill the silence.
Now, how about having a minute of silence? Just have that spread out and see what happens.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Okay, can I speak?
Sure.
Yesterday afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, I spoke to a Teal practice group in London, run by George Poor and Becky Tons and Anna Beck. I don't know if you know his name. And there were 20 people in the room. And Jackie is leading a project to try and energize what she's calling a Teal competence model, which has the integral matrix at its base. So consciousness, behavior, culture, and systems being the four components of the model, with consciousness and culture being internally driven and behavior and systems being externally observed. And I'm just minded of what you were saying, Gertrude, about how when people rush to certain practices or certain ideas and implement them and thinking everything's going to be fine, that they pay a price. So self-management on its own, and I've had similar experience with you, it doesn't work. It doesn't work on its own unless it's accompanied by a deep understanding of what it is self-management is in service of. And I think Frederick wrote about this too. He had a chapter in the book called Necessary Conditions, where he spoke about the board and the owners particularly and the funders really understanding the deeper purpose of an organization, which gave rise to self-management, wholeness, and evolutionary purpose as making perfect sense. And unless there's that deep understanding, that higher consciousness, whatever we call it, the rest of it can feel a bit orange, but with different words wrapped around it. It can feel more of the same, but with different wrapping paper around it. And so what's coming to me in the helpful minute silence you suggested was, how does that umbrella, how does that structure recognize this potential pitfall? It seems to me, you see, I mean, I'm just starting a new business myself with a colleague here in England, and we're going to base it around Teal principles. And when you look at that integral matrix, it seems pretty clear to me that I'm not too interested in behavior. I'm not interested in culture. What I'm really interested in is people's level of consciousness that's coming into our organization. Because it's my view, if everything's built on that strong foundation, behavior, culture will take care of itself, and the systems will evolve and be designed by people who have that deep understanding of what it is we're trying to do collectively together through this thing we call an organization. So I'm sort of, I may be blind here, I don't know, but my own thinking is, if you've got people operating out of a Teal consciousness and they see how that plays out in their moment-to-moment experience more often than not, so that they get to a point that you were describing, Gertrude, of, you can be just as comfortable with your red as your green, as your orange or any other colors I've forgotten. You can just be you in all of your horribleness and all of your wonderfulness. That provides the foundation, it seems to me, for building something that is really Teal and will really make a difference. I just am carrying this concern that without that, there'll be a number of failed attempts at trying to do a lot of this, with, as you were suggesting, Heidi, a number of people saying, this is not for me, and lo and behold, 25 or 30% of the workforce say, I'm out of here. That's a ramble rather than a response, but I'll stop there.
Jeff, you are also allowed to talk. He's gone. Well, I think there are two layers. For me, there are two layers. That is the work itself with the people in the companies, be it startups or grown-up companies. And the organizations, the communities of practice, or whatever you call them, that are already existing, like Teal for Teal, the Wiki for Reinventing Organizations, the Teal for Startups, name them. And there are many different organizations or organization-like structures already, but they are more like, not completely, but a little bit closed to their own arena. Like I realized when I was going to the Teal for Startups people, there were a lot of coming in from the ULab. And they haven't read the book, but they thought it was really cool to have organizations on a new level. So it was, for me, a lot of conversations. I had to say, okay, let's first look into the wiki when we write down the papers for other Teal startups. So there are so many people that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to, and how can like those infuse each other, like the ULab and the Reinventing Organizations people. Or there is the Flourish Prizes, which is an appreciative inquiry attempt from the business schools, from David Cooperrider and Ron Fry. They interview, this is a world inquiry, they interview business leaders all over the world. And this is very similar to what we do. They call it Flourish, they don't call it Teal, but it's very greenish, tealish what they do. So for me, this is like connecting the dots and knowing that people know from each other. That's the first thing. And the second is that they take what has been already done and not reinvent it, but learn from each other.
Yeah.
And they don't have to convert or go to the next one. It's more like, how can we have an overall, that I don't have a better word than umbrella, that they know from each other, learn from each other, and that it's like an organic system that is in which the liver has its part and the kidneys, and so, but it's all one organism, one big thing that is alive and really makes a difference.
Yeah.
So I come from a completely different, let's say, background. I have nothing to do with organizations, and I have no business and no, I was a choir leader. That was my, the biggest thing of, let's say, organization I needed to do with 30 people.
I thought you were the chief executive of the Wisdom Factory.
Yes. That's my baby, yeah. And it just came to me something like the Wisdom Factory could be a meeting point for people to come together. Or what you are doing here, also, that inviting the dialogue between the different groups and do it publicly. Here we do it privately, but do it publicly and invite the other people to join and to listen and to comment and to be present. And it could be, I don't know all these groups, I come in here sort of fresh. To invite to a crossover dialogue in a place which is not theirs and not theirs and not theirs, but it's sort of what you call umbrella. And just came, and when you talk about it, came to me that could be one of our things. We could do that, because we are in search how to continue with the Wisdom Factory after 3 or let's say 4 seasons, yeah. So just an idea. And as I said, I have no idea about structuring any business and how that works and so on. I'm more on the left-hand quadrant side, communities and interiority, and not so much on business. I need to learn something about that, so maybe I will. So that's what I can say to them. I feel quite Teal, let's say. I remember when I did first the Don Beck course 2004, I think, in Berlin. There was spiral dynamics, and I was already yellow, and the meme stick which came out, it was not yet yellow. Everybody thought they were yellow, but I think nobody got it. But after now 12 years, I think I'm sort of on the way. Don't ask Don, yeah, okay. But he isn't yellow either, so.
Yeah, I think the intellectual part comes first, so.
Yeah, that's for sure. Mm-hmm.
I think your point, Gertraud, about language is really important. So I know there's a kind of flourishing is a word that has been given some academic credence recently by being defined. But there were some scientists that defined it, I think. I know there's a research institute here looking at flourishing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in my own world, I've rested around the vocabulary of mindset, because that's what makes sense to people. I don't talk about inside-out paradigm shifts or Teal even. I just talk about mindsets can be inhibiting or they can be enlivening, and that seems to make sense to people. It's sort of, oh yeah, I get that, I understand what you mean. So maybe the word Teal is a limitation in that context, because it only means something to people who are aware of spiral dynamics, or they're aware of Frederick's book.
Mm-hmm.
Or a while back I studied with Bill Torbert as well, and learned his leadership development framework, which was mentioned in Frederick's book as one of his one of the people and the pieces of work that influenced his thinking around the color schemes and so on. But it seems Teal only means something to those of us in that community. It doesn't mean much to people outside of that community, outside of this community.
I think the funny thing is that some people don't even know anything about the spiral dynamics or so. They just Teal for Startups, there is a big bunch of ULab people that came in.
Can you say more about what you mean about ULab? I'm not sure what you mean. When you say that, what do you mean?
Otto Scharmer, the Theory U. And they came out of one of his big things. Yeah. And they came in because of the startup. And then they said, oh, let's reinvent that as a prototype, for example. And they haven't even read the book. So Teal is kind of, this is a synonym for the new way of doing business. so even people that don't know talk about Teal.
Yeah, and don't say spiral dynamics together with Teal. Then
no, my God, no. I should, sorry.
Wrong color scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you, when you say Teal, you don't respect his work. So
yeah. Okay, this is I didn't know spiral dynamics before, so I am coming from the Teal track. But I took your word. Sorry, Roger.
No, I think I've finished really. I think it's about, if this is to reach out, if it's to be an umbrella, we have to really understand what is it we're holding, what is this pole thing that gives birth, staying with the midwife analogy, to all of these spokes that come off the top of whatever it is we're holding. I think that thing we're holding is something to do with paradigm shift or Teal or a rising consciousness, so that people see that the world is no longer flat, but it's whatever they make of it. I don't know what the words are around that, but it seems to me that the hub that gives birth to the spokes of the umbrella needs nurturing, it needs codifying, or it needs, not codifying, that's not the right term, but it needs to be held preciously, and others coming to this new way of thinking to have access to it and start to see for themselves what it is that's being pointed to at the heart of this Teal paradigm, the heart of what I would call an inside-out paradigm. And once you see that, I think once people see that, they look at self-management, they look at wholeness, and they look at evolutionary purpose, and they look at holacracy, and they look at all the other stuff that's going on in those spokes with fresh eyes and new energy. And I think that's what will give it momentum. That's what will accelerate it. What won't accelerate it? It's just a different type of competence model, or a different type of decision-making process, or a different type of performance management system. Yeah, that won't change it. That will just be more of the same.
That the people take the spoke for the real thing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I have a suggestion. We have another 3 minutes, because then we need to go back. And first of all, I would like to extend that conversation. So I don't know exactly how, but I will have a Zoom call maybe once in a fortnight or something like that, an ongoing thing. And I think we need to get in touch with that living being, what that unity and diversity is. To have an example, my colleagues and I, the appreciators, we one day when we were just discussing things, and then somebody said, but what is that? If we are a being, if that the appreciated being, what is it? And so we went into that and really pondered on it. And we came up with something like very big ears, a heart you can see from the outside, and it has a very long tail with, I don't know, like the Mazopilami or so. And nobody ever draw it, but it's when we are stuck somewhere and said, why don't we have a minute of silence or two and listen into that being and ask what we call the appreciation being, and ask that what is needed, and then we come up with completely different ideas. So I would like to have that, and we don't have time anymore, but to have, to ponder on that and to really get what that being is, and then we know what it wants and what we need to do.
I'd love to have that conversation.
So let's have 1 minute, closing round, just take away what is the harvest out of this? Just 1 or 2 sentences, so we just have 1 minute.
Well, for me, it's to keep that inquiry. It's to keep that inquiry open. Just keep that conversation going that we've begun. So I would take away what it is you just said. I think we have to really understand what is at the heart of what this movement's about, and help people, as many people as possible, have access to it, and avoid just going at this from the same old thinking that got us into this mess in the first place.
And for me, it's a pleasure of talking with people who have a certain understanding and about topics which are interesting. So, Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just started writing down what is existing already, and I came up with Wisdom Factory, Enlivening Edge, Aim to Flourish, and all those that I will make a list that I can kind of come up with, and we can extend that. And I will definitely have that conversation ongoing.
Great.
Somehow, maybe on this channel, and have that in a fortnight or something like that. And because I know that this makes the difference to have that.
Yeah, I agree.
Not to make another great group that works on it.
Cool. I'm up for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
You.
We leave the conversation, and the recording will come to you, Heidi. So you have to take both, and then you can publish them in the Unity and Diversity.
Okay. I will figure that out. Okay.